What would you do if the person you trusted most was secretly tearing your life apart? My name is Vivian Cross, and 6 months ago, I thought I had it all. A charming husband, a gorgeous home in Brookhaven, and a best friend who felt like family. Derek, my husband of 7 years, was the kind of man who turned heads. Tall, successful in real estate, with a smile that made other wives at neighborhood barbecues glance a little too long. Marlo Patterson, my college roommate turned soul sister, was always there, holding my hand through every triumph and tear. Her husband Wesley, a reserved but brilliant lawyer, completed our inseparable foursome. We shared summer trips to Martha's Vineyard, winter ski getaways, and game nights filled with laughter and wine. My life looked perfect, the kind that sparkled on social media, but beneath the glossy surface, something was rotting. I'm standing in my sunlit kitchen now, the scent of fresh coffee lingering, staring at a receipt that doesn't belong. A whisper of betrayal I can't ignore. It's funny how the smallest things, like a buzzing phone or a neighbor's knowing glance, can unravel everything you thought you knew. Our house in Brookhaven was the envy of the cul-de-sac, with manicured lawns and wide windows that caught the golden afternoon light. Derek would bring me flowers every Friday, just because, and we'd host dinner parties where crystal glasses clinked and conversations flowed like the expensive wine we served. Marlo and I had survived college, different cities, and marriage, our friendship a constant through every change. She was the sister I never had, the one I called when my world felt too heavy. Wesley, her opposite in every way, quiet where Derek was loud, thoughtful where Derek was bold, balanced our group perfectly. The four of us were a unit, planning vacations, joking about future kids, even listing each other as emergency contacts. But perfection is fragile, and I first felt it crack during one of our regular game nights. We were sprawled across our living room, takeout containers from our favorite Italian place scattered on the coffee table, playing couples trivia. Derek's phone kept buzzing, a persistent hum that cut through our laughter. "Aren't you going to check that?" Marlo asked, her wine glass tilted toward the phone. Derek shrugged, too casual, his eyes flicking to the screen. "Just work stuff, nothing urgent." But the buzzing didn't stop, and when I reached for it playfully, his hand shot out, snatching it away so fast my wine glass tipped, spilling red across our white coffee table. "Jesus, Derek," I said, grabbing napkins, my heart thudding. "It's just your phone." His voice was tight. "Sorry, might be client info. Confidential." In 7 years, he'd never cared who touched his phone. I knew his passcode, answered his calls when he was in the shower. This wasn't him. I cleaned the wine, my hands shaking, and caught Marlo and Wesley exchanging a glance. Quick, loaded, like they knew something I didn't. "Everything okay?" I asked, my voice lighter than I felt. Marlo's smile was instant, bright as ever. "Of course, why wouldn't it be?" But the air felt heavier, the laughter forced. Derek kept his phone face down, checking it discreetly all night, and Marlo's jokes seemed too loud, her touches on his arm too frequent. I told myself I was imagining things, but the seed was planted. A week later, searching for my sunglasses in Derek's car, I found a receipt from Victoria's Secret. Lingerie, expensive, not my size, not my style. My stomach twisted as I sat in the dim garage, the paper crinkling in my hands. When Derek came home, I set the receipt on the counter, keeping my tone curious. "What's this?" He didn't blink. "For Penelope's birthday. You know how she loves fancy stuff." His sister, Penelope, did love gifts, so I called her the next day, chatting about her new apartment, the weather, then casually mentioning Derek's shopping. "Victoria's Secret?" she said, pausing. "That's weird, he's never bought me lingerie." Her voice sounded off, like she was covering for him. Something was wrong, and I couldn't unsee it. Our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Abernathy, only deepened my unease. "How are you, dear?" she asked at the mailbox, her eyes soft with pity. "I see things, cars in places they shouldn't be." Her words clung to me, a warning I wasn't ready to hear, but they echoed as I watched Derek's late nights and new gym obsession grow. The life I'd built was slipping, and I didn't know how to stop it. The doubts crept in slowly at first, like shadows lengthening at dusk, but soon they consumed my every thought. Derek's late nights at the office became routine, his explanations vague and distracted, as if he were reciting lines from a script he barely believed. He'd come home smelling faintly of unfamiliar perfume, floral and expensive, nothing like my signature scent. And when I'd mention it, he'd laugh it off, claiming it was from a client hug or the gym locker room. I wanted to believe him. Needed to, because the alternative meant dismantling the foundation of our life together. But the evidence mounted, each piece a sharp edge cutting into my denial. At my company's annual party, Derek spent the evening glued to my young assistant, Belle, his hand lingering on her back as they laughed at the bar. I watched from across the room, my champagne turning bitter in my mouth, while Marlo appeared at my side, her voice laced with concern. "Your husband's making an impression," she said, handing me a fresh glass. "I hope you don't mind me saying, but it's obvious." Her words felt genuine, a friend's gentle warning, and in that moment, I clung to her support like a lifeline. Our anniversary dinner at Chez Laurent should have been romantic, with candlelight flickering on white tablecloths and the murmur of elegant conversations around us. Instead, Derek was fidgety, his eyes darting to his phone every few minutes, scanning the room as if waiting for someone. When the waiter brought an unordered bottle of wine, mistaking us for regulars at table 7, Derek snapped, "We didn't order this," his face flushing. The waiter stammered, "My apologies, Mr. Cross, you're usually here with—" He trailed off embarrassed and Derek cut in. Must have me confused with someone else. But I saw the lie in his tightened jaw, the way he avoided my gaze. Later, alone in our bedroom, I started a notebook, jotting down every inconsistency, the late nights, the perfume, credit card charges for restaurants I'd never visited, hotels in unfamiliar parts of the city. Doing laundry one day, I found a folded note in his gym bag. "Can't wait to see you tonight. You make me feel alive." The handwriting feminine, the words a punch to my gut. Who was M? And why did Derek make her feel alive when our conversations had dwindled to grocery lists and weekend plans? I couldn't face this alone, but confronting Derek felt impossible without proof. Wesley seemed the logical choice. Logical, yet terrifying. As a family lawyer, he understood discretion and the legal tangles of marriage. As Derek's friend, his loyalties might be divided. But he was married to Marlo, my rock, and if anyone would grasp the sanctity of vows, it was him. I met Wesley for lunch at a quiet downtown cafe, far from Brookhaven's prying eyes, my notebook clutched like a shield. He arrived on time, suit pressed, briefcase in hand. "This is unexpected," he said, settling across from me. "Marlo mentioned you've been stressed." Taking a deep breath, I laid it out. "I think Derek is having an affair." His face shifted, surprise, concern, and a flicker of something unreadable. I read from my list, the receipts, the note, the secretive phone, sliding the paper across the table. Wesley examined it carefully, his lawyer's eyes sharp. "This is serious, Vivian. Have you confronted him?" "He always has answers, but they feel rehearsed." He nodded. "Gut instincts are usually right. I can connect you with a private investigator, Jasper Novak, discreet, thorough. He's helped clients in similar situations." That evening, as Derek claimed another client dinner, Marlo dropped by with wine, sensing my turmoil like only a best friend could. We sat on the back porch, the summer air thick with jasmine, stars peeking through the twilight. "You seem really stressed," she said, pouring generously. "Is everything okay?" I hesitated, then confessed, "I think our marriage is in trouble. Derek's been so distant, secretive." Her hand squeezed mine. "Oh, honey, have you talked to him? Maybe it's just work stress or a midlife thing." Her advice was practical, comforting. Communication is key, focus on the positives, but as she spoke, I wondered if she noticed the same changes in Derek that I did. "If you need anything, a place to stay, someone to vent to, I'm here," she assured me. "We've been friends too long for anything to come between us." Her sincerity nearly brought tears, a reminder that, amid the chaos, I had her. But even then, a nagging voice whispered that something was off, like a puzzle piece forced into the wrong spot. As Marlo left, hugging me tightly, I stared at the empty glasses, the wine's warmth fading. The investigation would start soon, but for now, the weight of suspicion pressed heavier, turning our perfect home into a house of shadows. Agreeing to Wesley's suggestion felt like crossing a threshold I couldn't uncross, but the alternative, living in this fog of suspicion, was unbearable. 2 days later, I sat in Wesley's law office after hours, the building quiet, except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Jasper Novak arrived promptly. a man in his 50s with graying hair, sharp eyes, and a gravelly voice that spoke of too many late nights and cigarettes. He looked like he'd stepped out of a noir film, his trench coat draped over the chair as he shook my hand firmly. "Mrs. Cross," he said, settling across from me. "Wesley briefed me. This will be invasive and painful. Are you ready?" I nodded, though my stomach churned. I handed over Derek's routines, his schedule, photos from our albums, even a description of his car. Wesley handled the payments through his firm, keeping my name off the books for anonymity. "First week is surveillance," Jasper explained. "Establish patterns, spot anomalies, then we target." As he left, I felt a mix of relief and guilt, like I was betraying my own marriage by seeking the truth. The waiting was agony, a slow drip of anxiety that seeped into every corner of my daily life. I went to work at the marketing firm, smiling through meetings, brainstorming campaigns for clients, while my mind replayed every odd moment with Derek. At home, we'd eat dinner, pasta or grilled chicken, mundane meals that felt like performances, and discuss nothing important, his phone always nearby but silent in my presence. I caught him scrolling absently, his face illuminated by the screen's glow, and wondered who he was texting. Marlo became my anchor in those tense days. Her calls and visits a reminder of stability amid the storm. One afternoon, she swung by with coffee from our favorite spot, her smile warm as she hugged me at the door. "You look exhausted," she said, settling on the couch. "Still stressed about Derek?" I sipped the latte, the foam creamy on my lips, and confessed a little more. "It's like he's somewhere else all the time. I found that note. You make me feel alive. M. Who could that be?" Marlo's eyes widened sympathetically. "Oh, Viv, that's awful. Maybe it's a client flirting? Or, I hate to say it, but affairs usually start close to home." Her words hung in the air, ironic now in hindsight, but then they felt like sage advice from a friend who'd always had my back. As the first surveillance week dragged on, I threw myself into normalcy, hosting a small brunch for neighborhood friends where laughter echoed off our walls. But my smiles were forced. Derek was attentive that day, refilling glasses and telling stories, yet I noticed how his phone stayed in his pocket, vibrating occasionally. Mrs. Abernathy attended, her frail hand patting mine as she whispered, "Keep your eyes open, dear. Not everything is as it seems." Her cryptic warnings, once dismissed, now fueled my resolve. Wesley checked in via discreet texts, reminding me to protect myself financially, document assets, review joint accounts. "If it's an affair," he said during a quick call, "he's likely planning ahead. We need to be ready." I started subtly, photographing bank statements and property deeds when Derek was out, feeling like a spy in my own home. The guilt gnawed at me, but so did the fear of being blindsided. Finally, Jasper's first report arrived via encrypted email, a clinical document that shattered my lingering hopes. Derek had lied about 3 client dinners that week. Instead, he'd met a brunette woman, around my age, at a downtown coffee shop, a boutique hotel parking garage, and a secluded park. The photos were grainy, taken from afar but unmistakable. Derek holding her hand, embracing her, kissing her with a passion I hadn't seen in years. Subject in romantic relationship, the report stated flatly. Ongoing, not casual. My hands trembled as I zoomed in on the images, her face partially obscured but familiar in a way that twisted my gut. Who was she? And how long had this been my reality? I called Wesley immediately, my voice breaking. "It's true. All of it." He sighed heavily. "I'm sorry, Vivian. This isn't what anyone wants." But strangely, confirmation brought a twisted clarity. "Actually, it helps," I replied. "I wasn't crazy." We decided on next steps. Identify the woman, install tracking software if needed, though I balked at invading our home further. "Think about protection," Wesley urged. "If he's leaving, he might hide assets." The thought hadn't hit me fully until then. Divorce, division, starting over. Meanwhile, Marlo's support intensified, as if she sensed my unraveling. During a wine night on my porch, fireflies dancing in the twilight, I vented more. "What if it's someone we know?" I probed, watching her face. She shook her head, her expression concerned. "That would be devastating. But you're strong, Viv. Whatever happens, we'll get through it." Her hand on mine felt reassuring, yet a doubt flickered. Why did her concern feel so rehearsed? As the surveillance deepened, targeting the mystery woman, I maintained the facade. Weekend plans with Derek, laughs over shared meals, all while the truth simmered beneath. Little did I know how close the betrayal truly was, woven into the fabric of my closest relationships. The report's cold facts stared back at me from my computer screen, each photo a dagger twisting deeper into the wound of my marriage. Derek's arms around her, their lips meeting in that park, images that burned into my memory, erasing the last shreds of doubt. But who was she? The woman in the photos had her back turned in most shots, her brunette hair cascading like a curtain hiding her identity. I enlarged every frame, searching for clues, a familiar necklace, a gesture I recognized, but nothing clicked yet. Wesley arranged for Jasper to tail her specifically now, digging into her routines, her life intersecting with Derek's. Meanwhile, I couldn't sit idle. The notebook had become my obsession, filled with timelines and suspicions. That weekend, we hosted a dinner party, the kind Derek adored. Elaborate courses, flowing wine, our home aglow with candlelight and chatter from neighborhood couples, including Marlo and Wesley. I watched Derek play the perfect host, charming guests with stories of real estate triumphs, but his phone stayed face down and he slipped away for a work call that lasted too long. As dishes cleared, his phone buzzed on the coffee table while he was in the kitchen. Without hesitation, I glanced at the screen. Had such a wonderful time today. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. From M. Patterson. Patterson, Marlo's maiden name, the one she kept professionally. My blood ran cold, the room spinning as pieces fell into place. It couldn't be, but suddenly, everything aligned. Marlo had been unusually helpful that night, navigating our kitchen like it was her own, grabbing the bottle opener without asking, using the downstairs bathroom as if she'd mapped the house in her mind. Small things, but in retrospect, damning. I replayed memories. Her laughter at Derek's jokes, a touch too enthusiastic. Her hand brushing his arm during conversations. The way she'd check in on me right after Derek's late nights. The dual realities crashed together. One where Marlo was my unwavering friend, the other where she was the shadow destroying my world. I barely slept that night. Derek's snores beside me, a mocking reminder of our shared bed. The next morning, with him at the gym, I accessed his laptop in his home office. Password guesses were easy. Our anniversary, his birthday, and it opened on the third try. Heart pounding, I sifted through files, work emails, property listings, nothing incriminating at first. Then, in the deleted folder, an email chain from marlo.pwriter@gmail.com. 8 months back, starting innocently, real estate advice, restaurant recommendations, but evolving into intimacy. I hate lying to Vivian, Derek wrote in one. She's good, but I've never felt this way. Marlo's reply, she doesn't see you, doesn't appreciate you. When we're together, you're alive. They discussed our situation, complaining about spouses, planning meetups. I printed the worst ones, hand shaking, then wiped my tracks. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional warfare, them painting me as oblivious, self-absorbed in my perfect life. Part of me wondered if they were right. Had I been too focused on dinner parties and social media, neglecting the cracks? But no, that didn't justify this. I called Jasper immediately. Focus on Marlo, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside. You think it's your friend? He asked, whistle low. That's rough. But he shifted gears, tailing her to the boutique hotel on Tuesdays and Thursdays, the same times Derek claimed client meetings. Photos confirmed, Marlo entering, Derek arriving soon after, their routine polished like a well-rehearsed play. She'd call me those afternoons, voice bright. How's your day? While fresh from his bed. Boring meetings, laundry, she'd lie, complaining about Wesley's long hours. I played along, we're fine, everything's perfect. Biting back the rage. Her hypocrisy fueled me. This wasn't a fling. It was calculated with secret accounts and future plans. Wesley noticed my shift during our next meeting, his office stacked with financial docs showing Derek's maneuvers. Offshore investments, hidden properties started 6 months ago. He's planning an exit, Wesley said, tense. I probed carefully. How's Marlo's schedule? She seems busier. He frowned. Freelance projects, client meetings, why? Just worry she's overworking. But I saw the doubt seed in his eyes, mirroring my own awakening. That weekend, Derek announced a Charleston trip for a deal. 4 days, suspicious for a short drive. I called Marlo for dinner. She declined. Visiting my sister in Atlanta. Family drama. But her sister was in Seattle, pregnant. We'd planned the shower together. Jasper followed. They drove to a mountain B&B, checking in as Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, Photos showing hand-holding, kisses, happiness that stung like acid. They looked in love, building what we'd lost. Monday, Marlo called from Atlanta. "How's alone time?" I lied smoothly, then tested. "I think Derek's cheating." Receipts, secrecy. Silence, then feigned shock. "Oh honey, trust your instincts, but get proof." Her advice, twisted from the source, made me laugh bitterly after hanging up. Alone in my kitchen, sunlight streaming through windows onto granite counters, I realized our friendship's death. 12 years poisoned by her deceit. No more victim. It was time to hunt. With the truth laid bare in Jasper's photos and those damning emails, I faced a crossroads that would shape my future. Explode in rage and demand answers that would only breed more lies, or play the long game, gathering ammunition like a general preparing for battle. I chose strategy over emotion, channeling my hurt into calculated steps. Jasper's surveillance expanded to Marlo's secret apartment on 5th Street, the one Derek had been funding through hidden accounts. A cozy nest with his clothes in the closet, his toiletries in the bathroom, even framed photos of them on the nightstand, mocking the homes we'd built. It wasn't just stolen afternoons, it was a rehearsal for the life they craved, free from Wesley and me. Using fake social media profiles, I uncovered Marlo's online facade. Posts about her new place, vague hints at exciting changes, introducing Derek as her boyfriend to distant friends, omitting the minor detail of our marriages. She'd told college buddies she and Wesley were on a break. Her family that separation loomed, preparing her world for the fallout while smiling in ours. The texts Jasper captured digitally were the cruelest blow. Plans for a future wedding, kids, a home far from Brookhaven. "Can't wait to stop sneaking," Derek messaged. "Soon, baby," Marlo replied. "Once divorces are final, no more boring problems." My pain? Reduced to an inconvenience they feigned concern over. Their scheme went deeper. They aimed to orchestrate a discovery that painted them as star-crossed lovers, not schemers. "Let them catch us accidentally," Derek suggested. "We'll look tragic, not guilty." Marlo agreed. "People will pity us." Reading that, my blood boiled. They wanted sympathy for the wreckage they'd caused. But knowledge was power, and I wielded it carefully. Wesley's financial team revealed more. Derek's deceptions spanned over a year. Deposits on solo properties, money funneled offshore. "Calculated exit," Wesley said in our meeting, his face drawn. I watched him closely, noting his growing unease. "Marlo's been out a lot. Evenings, freelance meetings," he admitted when I asked about her. "Details don't always add up, like a restaurant she mentioned that doesn't exist." His frown deepened. The seed I'd planted was sprouting. "Maybe check her stories," I suggested gently. "We both deserve the truth." He nodded, but I saw the wheels turning, a smart man piecing together his own puzzle. To test Marlo, I called her 2 weeks later, voice trembling with fabricated tears. "I need you, Marlo. Derek came home from Charleston so cold, like he hates being near me." She rushed over within the hour, concern etched on her face as we sat in the kitchen, sunlight glinting off the counter where I'd once found that receipt. I poured out suspicions, the secrecy, the distance, watching her reactions like a hawk. "I feel like a fool," I said, dabbing fake tears. "Maybe I drove him away, been a terrible wife." "Don't blame yourself," she insisted, squeezing my hands. "If he's cheating, it's on him. You're amazing, Viv." The irony stung. Here she was, absolving me while plotting my downfall. I pushed further. "What if it's someone we know, close, comfortable?" Her composure held, but a micro flicker in her eyes betrayed her. "Possible. Co-workers, friends of friends. Men are idiots chasing greener grass." Her words, so hypocritical, fueled my resolve. As she hugged me goodbye, promising unwavering support, I almost broke. How could 12 years end in this charade? Alone, I delved deeper, accessing Marlo's public freelance site under a pseudonym, finding inconsistencies in her projects that matched affair timelines. Jasper tailed her to lunches with Derek, disguised as business, capturing whispers and touches in cafes. One photo showed them laughing over coffee, her hand on his knee, intimate, effortless. Wesley hired his own investigator soon after, confiding in a hushed call. "Your questions about Marlo? I need to know." His findings mirrored mine, the apartment, the lies. But he held off telling me, building cases for both divorces. 2 weeks I've known, he'd later admit, but in those days, we paralleled each other, amassing proof in silence. I feigned more vulnerability with Marlo, sharing discoveries like blurry photos I'd staged myself, gauging her responses. I saw Derek with a woman at the mall, she confessed, one day in tears, showing shaky images, her staged exposure to manipulate sympathy. I'm so sorry, she sobbed, hugging me. I had to tell you. Her performance was Oscar-worthy, but I played along, devastated, while inside, fury hardened into steel. This was her test, and she'd failed spectacularly, confirming every suspicion. As she left, texting Derek no doubt, I stared at our wedding photo on the mantel. Us smiling, Marlo in the background as maid of honor. The illusion shattered, but in its place rose clarity. I wasn't just surviving, I was outmaneuvering them, turning their web of deceit against them. The web of lies they'd spun was intricate, but I'd become the spider at its center, patiently waiting to strike. 2 weeks after Marlo's staged confession about seeing Derek with another woman at the mall, her blurry photos a pathetic attempt to shift blame and garner pity, I decided it was time to unravel everything. I'd played along during her visit, feigning shock and heartbreak as she hugged me, her tears crocodile wet on my shoulder. I can't believe this is happening to you, she'd said, voice quivering. I'm here for whatever you need. Stay with you, confront him. Every syllable dripped with false empathy, designed to keep her cover intact while she texted Derek updates from my bathroom. But I'd seen through it. My own evidence stacked towering. Jasper's photos of their mountain getaway, the apartment's intimate details, Wesley's financial forensics exposing Derek's hidden funds meant for their new life. Wesley had paralleled my efforts, his investigator confirming the affair's depth, the apartment lease in Derek's name, Marlo's double life funded by marital deceit. I owe you an apology, he'd said in a late-night call, his voice heavy. I've known for weeks, but wanted ironclad proof for us both. United in betrayal, we'd coordinated the endgame, lure Marlo into a final act of support, then expose the truth with Derek walking into the trap. I set the stage with a tearful call to Marlo the next morning, my voice cracking just enough to sell the desperation. Marlo, I need to tell you something devastating. I confronted Derek last night about the woman, and he denied everything. But I know he's lying. Can you come over? You're the only one I trust. She arrived quickly, bearing coffee and tissues, her concern a mask I'd learned to recognize. Eyes wide with feigned sympathy, hands clasping mine as we sat in the living room, sunlight filtering through curtains onto the coffee table, where that fateful wine spill had started it all. Tell me everything, she urged, settling beside me. I spun the tale, Derek's cold denial, my growing paranoia, how I felt like I was losing my mind. What if the other woman is someone close, a friend even? I watched her swallow, her composure cracking for a split second before she recovered. That's paranoia talking, Viv. But if it's true, we'll handle it. You're not alone. Her words, once comforting, now rang hollow, a performance to maintain the illusion while she and Derek plotted their escape. As she comforted me, suggesting I gather more proof before accusing, my phone buzzed with Wesley's text. On my way with folders. The timing was precise. I'd invited him under the guise of legal advice for my suspicions. Marlo offered to stay, help confront Derek when he gets home, but I demurred. I just need a moment, I said, excusing myself to the bathroom. There, staring at my reflection, eyes hardened by months of deception, I steeled myself. This wasn't revenge for revenge's sake, it was justice, reclaiming the narrative they'd stolen. Returning to the living room, I dropped the act. Marlo, you're right, Derek is cheating, with you. Her face paled, mouth gaping like a fish pulled from water, no words forming as color drained away. I know about the apartment on 5th, the secret accounts, the texts calling my life boring problems. I know your plan to make this look accidental for sympathy. She stammered. Vivian, I don't know what you think, but I cut her off. Everything, Marlo. The question is, will you keep lying or respect me enough for the truth? She deflated, tears welling, real this time, or so they seemed. How long have you known? Long enough to protect myself, to ensure you don't ruin me like you planned. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she whispered. We tried to fight it. By renting an apartment, planning weddings while lying to us. The doorbell rang right on cue. Marlo's eyes widened in panic. That's Derek? No, I said, opening the door to Wesley, folders in hand, expression grim as stone. Hello, Vivian. Time for a conversation about our spouses. He stepped in, facing Marlo on the couch. "Hello, wife. Imagine my surprise discovering your double life via my own investigator. Photos, records, every lie documented." Marlo gasped, starting to protest, but Wesley raised a hand. "I have it all. Texts plotting manipulations, financial trails." "Wesley, please. Nothing to explain. You've chosen daily for months." That's when Derek burst through the door, cheerful as ever. "Honey, I'm home early. Thought we could." He froze, taking in the scene. Wesley with evidence, me arms crossed, Marlo tear-streaked. "What's going on?" His voice wavered, eyes darting for escape. "A truth session," I said coolly. "Your turn. Explain your relationship with Marlo to Wesley and me." He blustered. "I don't know what," but Wesley interjected. "Photos of your clothes in her apartment, bank records of payments, texts planning lives together." Skip denial. The room thickened with tension, the air heavy as confessions spilled. Ugly, painful, but freeing. The confrontation erupted like a storm long brewing, thunderous admissions clashing with desperate deflections in our once cozy living room. Derek stood frozen in the doorway, his briefcase slipping from his hand with a thud that echoed the finality of the moment. His eyes darted between us. Wesley's stern grip on the evidence folders, Marlo's tear-streaked face on the couch, my unyielding stance with arms crossed like a barrier against further lies. "This isn't what it looks like," he stammered, falling back on the cheater's cliché, but his voice lacked conviction, cracking under the weight of our collective gaze. Wesley's tone was ice-cold, a lawyer's precision cutting through the air. "It looks exactly like what it is. You and my wife betraying us for months, hiding assets, plotting to make us the villains in your love story." Derek tried to pivot, blaming me first. Our marriage had grown stale. I'd been too focused on work and appearances, neglecting his needs. "You were always planning parties, posting perfect photos, but where were you for me?" he accused, his face flushing with a mix of anger and shame. Marlo chimed in, her voice small but defiant, claiming they'd fought their feelings, that it started innocently during one of our group trips, a shared glance turning into something unstoppable. "We didn't want to hurt anyone," she sobbed. "It just happened." But their minimizations crumbled against our proof. Texts mocking our boring problems, financial trails of Derek's offshore accounts funding their secret apartment, photos of their romantic getaways where they posed as a married couple. I let them speak, watching the facade crack. But when Derek turned accusatory toward Wesley, "You were never there for her, always buried in cases," Wesley shut it down. "This isn't about our flaws, it's about your choices. Daily deceptions, systematic sabotage." The air grew thick with revelations. How Marlo had counseled me on trust while sleeping with my husband. How Derek had staged work trips to build their future. They admitted the affair's length, 8 months of stolen moments, but denied the calculation, insisting love made them blind. Yet the emails I'd printed contradicted them. Words like, "Once the divorces are final," exposing their blueprint for escape. Marlo broke first, collapsing into sobs that racked her body. "I'm sorry, Viv. You were my best friend." "Were," I echoed, the word heavy. "Friendship doesn't survive this." Derek reached for her hand instinctively, a gesture that sealed their guilt, and Wesley's face hardened further. "You've destroyed 2 marriages for a fantasy. Now face the consequences." The evening dissolved into painful logistics. Derek packing a bag under our watchful eyes, Marlo leaving with Wesley in tense silence, the house suddenly too quiet, echoes of laughter from better days mocking the ruins. Divorce proceedings moved swiftly, a whirlwind of court dates and depositions that stripped away their illusions of a clean getaway. Wesley handled both cases with ruthless efficiency, his expertise in family law turning their deceptions against them. In my hearing, Judge Morrison reviewed the evidence. Derek's hidden investments, transfers to accounts tied to the apartment, even deposits on a Florida condo meant for him and Marlo. "Mr. Cross," the judge intoned, her voice stern in the wood-paneled courtroom, "your attempts to defraud Mrs. Cross demonstrate a troubling pattern of dishonesty. This court awards her a settlement reflecting not just asset division, but penalties for your actions." Derek's face paled as the gavel fell. He lost the house, half his business equity, and alimony that left him scrambling. His real estate empire, once thriving, teetered under the financial strain, clients fleeing amid whispers of scandal. Marlo fared worse. Their prenup, signed carelessly years ago, left her with minimal assets. Wesley presented proof of her infidelity and financial complicity: the apartment lease, joint purchases with Derek, voiding any claims. She walked away with little more than personal belongings, her freelance career tanking as word spread through professional networks. Within months, she moved back to her parents in Ohio, a shadow of the vibrant woman I'd known. Her social media silent after backlash from mutual friends. The social fallout was swift and merciless, Brookhaven's tight-knit community turning on them like a tide. Whispers at barbecues, avoided invitations. Derek and Marlo became pariahs, their affair's details leaking through the grapevine. "I always sensed something off about Marlo," neighbors confided, recounting odd sightings of her car at our house during Derek's work hours. Mrs. Abernathy pulled me aside one crisp autumn day, her eyes kind. "I tried warning you, dear. Saw them together more than once, but you handled it with grace." Derek fled to Florida eventually, his business in tatters, abandoning Marlo when the money dried up. She called him out in a desperate text I'd later hear about. "You promised forever." His reply? Silence. Their great love crumbled under reality's pressure, proving it was built on sand. Through it all, Wesley and I forged an unlikely alliance, sharing wine on my porch as sunsets painted the sky, discussing not just legal wins but emotional scars. "The strangest part," he mused one evening, "is they saw themselves as victims, love keeping them apart." "Instead of selfish destroyers," I added, clinking glasses. The pain lingered, but so did a budding strength. I'd protected myself, turned betrayal into armor. In the aftermath of the divorces, Brookhaven felt different. Not smaller, but clearer, like fog lifting after a long rain, revealing paths I'd never noticed before. I kept the house at first, its rooms echoing with memories both sweet and sour, but eventually sold it for a sleek townhouse closer to downtown, where my new marketing consultancy could thrive. The settlement from Derek provided a solid foundation, but it was my own drive that turned it into something remarkable. Clients drawn to my strategic mind, honed by months of outmaneuvering betrayal. Therapy with Dr. Sarah Coleman became a weekly ritual, not because I was crumbling, but to unpack how I'd missed the signs, how trust had blinded me to red flags waving in plain sight. "You loved them," she said simply during one session, her office warm with afternoon light filtering through blinds. "That's not weakness. It's human. The flaw was theirs, not your perception." She was right. Confronting Derek earlier might have led to gaslighting, no evidence, a messier end. Instead, my patience had armed me, transforming victimhood into victory. Wesley and I stayed connected, our shared porch evenings evolving into a genuine friendship, two survivors comparing notes on rebuilding. "You know," he said one crisp fall night, wine glasses catching the porch light, "I think we both came out stronger. They took our trust, but we gained clarity." Word spread through our circles, the scandal's ripples turning Derek and Marlo into cautionary tales. Friends I'd thought peripheral stepped up, offering support without pity. Dinners where laughter flowed freely, no facades required. Jennifer from my networking group became a confidant, her own stories of resilience mirroring mine. "You seem truly happy," she noted over dessert one evening, the restaurant buzzing around us. "Not just surviving." And I was. My company grew, attracting high-profile accounts, my days filled with purpose rather than performance. I planted a garden behind the townhouse, tending herbs and flowers in soil that felt like renewal, their scents a daily reminder of growth from barren ground. Social media shifted too. No more curated perfection, just authentic glimpses. A client win, a solo hike, moments that were mine alone. Derek's move to Florida marked his downfall. Whispers reached me of his struggling business, lost clients fleeing the taint of his dishonesty. Marlo's fall was quieter but profound. Back in Ohio, career stalled, isolated from the life she'd coveted. Their love fizzled when reality hit. Derek dumped her amid financial woes, proving his loyalty as fleeting as his vows. 2 years later, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Marlo, her voice tentative, from Ohio. "Vivian, I know I have no right, but I need to say I'm sorry." I listened in my home office, gazing at the garden blooming outside as she poured out regrets. Therapy had shown her jealousy of my life, marriage, success, had driven her to destroy what she envied. I told myself I was saving Derek, but I was just selfish, cruel. She confessed Derek's abandonment, He left when things got hard, couldn't afford the promises. There was irony in her pain, but no schadenfreude stirred in me. Her words, once craved, now felt hollow, too late. I hope you find peace, I said evenly. But some breaks can't mend. What you did was a choice, every day for months. Hanging up, a weight lifted, not forgiveness but closure, the final thread severed. That evening, dinner with new friends, Jennifer, Michael, others forged through authenticity, filled me with quiet joy. Regrets? Michael asked, echoing his own divorce scars. Trusting the wrong people, ignoring instincts. But I'm proud of how I fought back. Locking up later, the house silent but peaceful, I reflected on the transformation. From Vivian Cross, defined by husband and friend, to just Vivian, independent, resilient, living for my own horizon. As the days stretched into seasons, I found myself wandering more often through the garden I'd nurtured, the petals soft under my fingertips, their colors a gentle reminder that beauty emerges from patient care. The sharp edges of betrayal had dulled, not forgotten, but softened by time's quiet hand, allowing space for new growth where old wounds once ached. Therapy sessions with Dr. Coleman grew less frequent, her insights now woven into my daily thoughts. A calm voice urging compassion for the woman I'd been, trusting, hopeful, human in her vulnerabilities. Wesley and I exchanged occasional messages, our paths diverging yet connected by mutual respect, each of us rebuilding on foundations stronger for the cracks we'd mended. The scandal's echoes faded in Brookhaven, replaced by everyday rhythms, neighbors waving without pity, clients praising my work with genuine admiration. Derek and Marlo became distant shadows, their fates a whispered lesson in consequences. But my focus turned inward, to the life I'd crafted. Solitary hikes at dawn, laughter-filled gatherings with friends who saw me truly, a business thriving on integrity rather than illusion. In quiet moments, sipping tea as twilight painted the sky in hushed pinks and golds, I marveled at the irony. What was meant to shatter me had instead set me free, revealing strengths I never knew I possessed. Betrayal, once a storm, now felt like a cleared path, leading to authenticity and peace. And in that serenity, I whispered to myself, "You've arrived home at last."